India's Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, recently concluded a week-long visit to France, where he interacted with top executives of several French defence majors like Dassault Aviation, Safran, and Naval Group. He also interacted with various top military personnel in the French government as well. The primary agenda was discussing futuristic capabilities of the Indian armed forces. The CDS's visit came shortly after the chief of the French Army Staff, Pierre Schill, visited India in February. Last November, India's army chief too had visited Paris, and shortly before that, in October, the Honorable Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh had gone to France. What does it show? The two sides remain committed to actualizing the ambitious plans set during subsequent exchanges of the two leaders in 2023, when the strategic partnership celebrated 25 years, and then in 2024, when President Emmanuel Macron graced India's Republic Day as the chief guest. With such trust and strategic gravitas, it is logical that India and France should take their wide spectrum cooperation to the next level, especially in the realm of defense cooperation, which I think remains the bedrock of the partnership. The recent flurry of high profile visits suggests that much is in the offing before 2026 can be formally declared as the year of Indo French innovation. Now, there is so much information on India France ties that one seems to get lost in that matrix. I'll try to declutter it for you. So, there are two specific documents that guide the evolving strategic bonhomie between India and France. First is called Horizon 2047, signed during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France on Bastille Day in July 2023. And second, the Defence Industrial Roadmap, signed during Macron's visit to India in January 2024. These two documents pretty much cover the breadth of how various convergences are envisioned by the two sides. Horizon 2047 is a strategic roadmap guiding the partnership until 2047, and it also coincides with India's independence centenary, that is 100 years, and the Golden Jubilee, 50 years of India-France ties. The document outlines a comprehensive matrix for bilateral cooperation across several areas, drawing from their mutual commitment to strategic autonomy and multipolarity. Now, let's come to the second one. When the Defence Industrial Partnership Roadmap was mentioned in the 20th point of the detailed joint statement, which was released during Macron's visit in January, it really took the Indian commentariat by storm, and for good reason. The joint statement spanned across 40 to 41 points that spoke of the exceptional nature of the relationship. It talked of evolving ties and convergence of interest in the Indo-Pacific, joint exercises, trilateral overtures, and surveillance missions in the Indian Ocean region through frameworks such as the Maritime Domain Awareness, Maritime Cooperation Dialogue, and much more. Now, important in their own regard and crucial for ensuring the dynamism that is required in taking the bilateral ties forward, it was still the mention of the defense industry roadmap that caught everyone's attention with its pithy articulation. Even though the detailed roadmap remains classified for now, the stress on the three C's, co-designing, co-development, and co-production of defense equipment, not only for India but also for other countries, etched in stone the ambitious joint vision of how the two sides have committed to taking the bedrock of their bilateral ties ahead. This roadmap, needless to say, is also in accordance with India's ideal of Atmanirbhar Bharat and will cover both air and space technologies, maritime technology, including underwater domain awareness. All these developments are coinciding with France's rise as the second largest defense exporter to India, and this is a very important point. According to Stockholm-based SIPRI's 5-yearly data of global arms flows between 2019 and 2023, France has emerged as India's second largest defense exporter, with 33% of total Indian imports coming from France. Notably, Russia, with 36%, remains the topmost exporter. However, tracked over the 5-year period, SIPRI data shows a steady decline in India's imports from Russia, from 76% 10 years ago to 36% now. India has reportedly not placed a fresh order with Russia after the war in Ukraine. The deliveries received lately of equipment such as the Igla S manpads have been from orders placed in 2018 or 2019. The remaining contingents of S-400s are still awaited, most likely to arrive by the third quarter of 2026. I've talked about it earlier as well. Now, with no significant orders placed since 2021 and the Ukraine war going unabated, the impact of sanctions on Russia's capacity to manufacture defense equipment and their subsidiaries for export purposes remains unclear. Then there are also technical difficulties in rupee ruble payment mechanism system, which is likely to impede the purchase of bigger equipment. So, except for licensed production of equipment such as the stellar BrahMos missiles that are being produced in India and the AK-203 rifles at Amethi, the share of Russian exports is likely to fall even further. On the contrary, the sheer number and expanse of ventures between India and France has been increasing by the day. In 2023, India's DRDO opened an office in Paris for navigating cooperation in defense technology by harnessing the compatibilities and competencies of these two economies. DRDO has also entered into an agreement with France's naval group to enhance the capabilities of the Kalvari class submarines. Alongside the initial procurement of 6 Kalvari attack submarines, the Ministry of Defense recently cleared the acquisition of 3 additional subs. The 2024 joint statement that I was just referring to earlier also lauds the developments on an MOU between DRDO and the French Directorate General of Armament. Going ahead, the confidence shown by France for alleged 100% transfer of technology by Safran, which is the world's largest aircraft equipment manufacturer, for the proposed Safran India Shakti jet engine deal, is unprecedented by a Western power. Now, I refer to it as alleged because I'm of the view that no country will give 100% TOT in absolute terms. And I iterate, even Russia. When saying 100%, it usually means 100% adhering to the terms of the TOT, not the entire technology itself. Keep that in mind. It is a very important point. Coming back, these Shakti jet engines are for the 5th generation Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, or the AMCA, which are designed for stealth. Now remember that they differ from LCA Tejas that are 4.5 generation fighters designed for maneuverability. Coming back to the AMCAs, the Modi government has confirmed its plans to develop at least 7 squadrons of AMCAs, including 2 squadrons of the AMCA Mk1 to be equipped with GE414 engines from the US. The remaining 5 squadrons will be powered by new indigenous engines with contenders including Safran of France, General Electric from the US, and Rolls-Royce from the UK. It is here that France's involvement stands out by offering a 100% transfer of technology, and I was just mentioning this. Additionally, Safran has also entered into a shareholders agreement with India's HAL for industrial collaboration concerning the motorization of the Heavy Lift Helicopter Program, or the IMRH. The other example can certainly be given from the French aerospace giant Thales, which has announced plans to establish an avionics maintenance, repair and operations facility, an MRO facility in Delhi. This indeed bears testimony to Thales' support to modernization and indigenization efforts in India's aerospace and defense sector. Perhaps you also need to know that Thales is a pivotal member of the Rafale team of Dassault Aviation. Now, currently, the Indian Air Force operates 2 squadrons of Rafale jets and is close to inking a deal for acquiring its marine version for India's aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. Dassault always remains an important contender for India's multi-role fighter aircraft MRFA program whenever and if at all it materializes. Just like Safran's pitch for AMCA and IMRH operates on the logic of economies of scale, the same is applicable to Dassault for its deliveries of Rafales, both air and marine versions, Thales's MRO facilities, and a potential deal for MRFs. Although, from the Indian perspective, the logic of economies of scale has to also be reconciled with India's pitch for diversification. Now, let's talk about co production for third parties. Stated as one of the goals of the defense industry roadmap, one of the likely theatres for India France joint production export is the region of Caucasus, comprising of Armenia and Azerbaijan. India has been a steady supplier of weapons to the region after war broke out in Nagorno-Karabakh in 2020, as has France, especially after 2023. Disgruntled by Collective Security Treaty Organization, the CSTO, Armenia has virtually suspended its membership and is siding more and more with the West these days, despite keeping Russia's military base in the country. The geopolitical space for France has also increased after Russia recently announced the withdrawal of its peacekeepers from the region, which was seen as a major tool of Moscow's influence there. Paris has been supplying Armenia with a whole host of air defenses, GM-200 radars, things like assault rifles and short-range air defense systems, and it also trains Armenian troops. India, for its part, has been siding with Armenia for a different geopolitical calculus. For instance, against Turkey and Pakistan, but lands up on the same side as France when it comes to weapons deliveries. Now, Armenia is expected to spend about $1.5 billion on defense in 2024. A steady weapon supplier in the backdrop of a geopolitical shift of power in the region, India could be inching closer to a strategic partnership with Armenia, alongside France's increasing involvement in the region. Now, this direction could logically culminate into joint production and export of weapons, very much in line with the MOD's stated objective of enhancing defense exports. But you know what? That's not all. The convergence on the array of ambitious defense industrial plans must also translate into robust geopolitical roles, reflecting a more holistic approach to bolstering the fractured security of our epoch. Now, that calls on the two sides to develop and deliver on reducing the prevalent uncertainties of an ambivalent world. Beyond semantics, such deliverables must be based on a realistic assessment of capabilities and convergences while respecting the divergent national interests of the other. France is pretty much the epicenter of India's expanding engagement with Europe today. I will be back to discuss the challenges in India-France ties, the myths around TOTs, and the suggestions to improve strategic communications that need to be catered to for making this wonderful partnership reach even newer heights. Stay tuned.